Hey guys, welcome to BP The Bible Perspective. Author and speaker Beth Moore has parted ways with the SBC, stating she is no longer a Southern Baptist. To that, I say, what took you so long? Now, before we get into it, please like and share this video and subscribe to BP The Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Now, Beth Moore is really the model of what evangelical is, or I should say an evangelical woman is. White, middle class, together, married, with kids, wife, as I said. Okay. And but recently she had announced that she's splitting ways with the Southern Baptists and their publishing arm, Lifeway. Now, I don't know why that in itself is newsworthy, because I just see it every time I see the headlines about her split. She's going to be fine in terms of publishing because she's a brand unto herself. But what is troubling is, of course, why she split from her long-time association with the largest Protestant denomination in our nation, the Southern Baptists. Let's understand who the Southern Baptists are so you can understand why she split from them and why I say, what took you so long? First and foremost, the Southern Baptists formed in 1845, and this is, of course, right during the midst of the slavery period. Every denomination split over the issue of slavery, and that in itself is shocking. Every Christian denomination split over the issue of slavery. Eventually, every denomination reconciled, acknowledging the error of their ways, acknowledging their sin, except the Southern Baptists. They split and persisted in their racist ways. They believed in slavery. They believed in the inferiority of blacks. Troubling, since this is the largest Protestant denomination. During the Civil Rights era, they numbered around 11 million. And even after the 64 and 65 passage of the Civil Rights Bill, effectively ending legalized racism in America, institutions like the Southern Baptists and other Christian denominations held on to their racism. It wouldn't be for another 30 years that the Southern Baptists repented of their sin of racism around the mid-90s. Now entered Beth Moore, who was a staple in the Southern Baptists as a popular woman's teacher and author. Of course, she did very well. Well, what changed? Well, Donald Trump changed. Her criticism against the 45th president and his misogynist ways drew criticism of Southern Baptist people, both male and female. In other words, they turned on her because she criticized Donald Trump. And I could tell you, Donald Trump has become a source of division in the church. Again, shocking. Where does Jesus tell us to rise and fall or unify over Trump? But these Christians do. They will unfriend you, block you, and as Beth Moore found out, turn on you. So for the last couple of years, there has been fierce attacks against her. She's always taught the same. It's not like she started teaching heresy, but simply because of the criticism of Donald Trump. Now it came to a head, at least she felt, and said, enough is enough. Now recently in the Southern Baptists, that old racism came up again. Several black pastors left, or at least announced that they were leaving the Southern Baptists over issues of critical race theory. Now, the idea of critical race theory deserved its own topic, which I will address later. But the fact that the pretty much the predominantly white leadership said, we're not down with critical race theory. And then you had other black leaders said, well, then we're going to leave. Now, Beth Moore was one of them. Not over critical race theory itself, but the idea of the racism that she is saying exists and the sexism. You see, remember, the Southern Baptist, the good old boys club. It's a man's world there. And so finally she says, okay, I'm leaving. The Southern Baptist is troubling because, one, it has a rich history of racism. So what was the straw that broke the camel's back with Beth Moore after nearly 3 decades? And that's my kind of question. I'm not throwing a condemning rock. I'm simply asking the question. In other words, how can anyone be a part of the Southern Baptist? I just mentioned those black pastors. Black pastors, why are you a member of the Southern Baptist? Right? In other words, what have they shown you since the 1840s that they have changed? See, laws changed in civil rights, but hearts and minds didn't. Trump brought out, and I think if you go back even with these black pastors, you'll see that some of the turning wheels here, that a lot of Trump brought out the whiteness in a lot of right Christians. He brought out the white pride, and he brought out that I can be white and unabashedly white. Now that's troubling because he should have brought out what it's like being a Christian. But you see, remember, this is what the Southern Baptist has always been about. Being white. Right? And so Trump comes along and he stirs. Now remember, you got 14 million people. 14 million people who profess to be Christians that identify with Trump. I would say most of them do. That identify with Trump. Identify with the white culture and the white pride. Well, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this to people like Beth Moore. You should have recognized that decades ago. This is something that should have been addressed decades ago. And in the mid-90s, when the Southern Baptists made their confession, in other words, they repented of the racism, that was only a good first step. The question always remains with these kinds of institutions is, what do you do about the hearts and the minds? How have you changed the hearts and the minds? In other words, in 1965, the law was changed, and thank God it was, because you see, legal racism was ended in 64 and 65. You just couldn't go out and just lynch a black person like they used to. Man, what's the world coming to, said some racists. But you also have to understand that their hearts didn't change. This is why it took some 30 years afterwards, and in some cases even more. But white evangelicalism, they still think the same. And surprisingly, now we come to 2021, and they still, some of them, think the same. So while I applaud Beth Moore for separating from what appears to be a racist institution, what took you so long? Really, what took you so long? All right, look, that is my perspective, and more to come on this. But don't forget to like and share this video, and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. Till next time, I'll see you then.